Hello again, friends. This is Sharon from Mad Paper Crush here. Today I'm working on a friendship folio, and I'm calling it that because I am using pages from my friendship digital kit to make this fun little folio. It's about 5 inches by 5 inches, and if you sized up or sized down on some of this, you could make it bigger or smaller, but I thought it would be fun to put into a journal, or even to just give away as is, stuffed with some fun ephemera and things like that. So here it is, and the first thing that I wanted to mention is that it has this big giant pocket in the back, so you can actually put a big card or tag or something in the back here. I thought that was a fun little feature to kind of have there, that you might not even know it's there, with just this little tab sticking up. So it's kind of a little hidden pocket, a little bonus pocket. And then I love this closure that kind of goes diagonal. I didn't want to cut off some of my pictures, which is why I decided to do it that way. But then when you open it up, you have a fun pocket right here that has a vellum window on it. And when you pull out the ephemera that's there, you can see that pretty lady looking back at you there. So that goes right into there. And then when you open up this page, now I don't know if you can see this, but I wanted to kind of show you what we're going to be doing is making this magnetic closure for this page, so it stays together when you first open it up. And I thought that would be fun. I haven't used magnets in a while in some of my tutorials, and I thought it would be fun to throw one in there. So I have a magnet that holds the rest of these pages together. So when we open it up here, you can see we have on this side a little side pocket for some little pieces of ephemera or whatever you'd like to put there. I have a pocket here that you can put a nice big tag or note card or something right in there. And then this opens up. Let me open it up this way. And in the middle, we have 2 pockets, a stacked pocket here. So 2 stacked pockets for some little ephemera in the front. And then a little bit larger ephemera can go into the back here. And then on this side, we have a tuck spot where you can put, I included some of the quotes from the kit in here. I thought that would be fun. And then when you turn this over, you have another little tuck spot on this side. So these 2 little matching tuck spots here on the side. And then over here, you have a little pocket that's kind of like a hidden pocket. There's just like a little slit where you can put a tag or something down into that. A nice little opening there to keep your ephemera right in there. And so that is what we're going to be making with our magnet today on my channel. So I hope that you'll join me as we'll make this fun friendship folio. Let's go. Okay, I'm going to be starting with some pages from my friendship digital kit, which I've printed out on a cardstock. It's not a heavy cardstock, it's a light cardstock, but it's going to be sturdy enough to be our base. So a cardstock here, and I've also double-sided printed them so that I don't have to worry about there being white, on any of the pages. So I've printed out a couple of those. I have those ready to go. I've printed out some ephemera that also from the kit that I might be using as well. And then as for other tools, it's going to be the standard things. It's going to be my cutter, it's going to be my scoreboard, I'm going to be using some glue. The only other thing that I might do a little bit extra is I might be using some magnets. So when we get closer to that part, I'll show you what those are. And then also I'm probably going to do some die cutting on this as well, or at least on one pocket as well. And of course I'll be sewing. If you've been here for any amount of time, I love putting my paper into my sewing machine. So I'll definitely be doing that as well. So let's go ahead and get started here. Okay, so first we need to cut some pieces for the base of our folio. So I need to have a long strip and a wide strip that we're going to be using for our flaps. And basically what I need is for the length of one of the pieces to be double the size of the width. So I'm kind of going with a 5 by 10. So, but I'm going to add in a little bit for some, if we have some width in there, I'm going to be adding a little bit more, but basically it's going to be 5 by 10. So let me show you what I mean. So this first piece, this is going to be my, my tall piece. So I want this one to be 5 inches wide. And this one I'm going to leave just 11 inches tall. I could, you know, cut it down to 10, but I think I'm just going to leave this 5 by 11 right now. And then we'll see what we're going to do. And then I'm going to take another one here, and I want this one to be the wide piece, and I'm going to make this one, I'm going to cut this one down just a little bit, but we're going to be adding different things to it. So this one's going to be 5, but then I'm going to cut off just a little bit on this side. I'm going to make this one 10 1/4 by 5. So I'm just going to cut off just a little bit of this side here. Okay, so this is my wide piece. And then I've cut another one actually at, I think it's in here somewhere. This piece here is, let me grab my ruler, which the numbers are pretty bad on this, but this one is 10 1/2 inches wide, also once again by 5 inches. Okay, so I should say 10 1/2 inches long, I guess, and 5 inches wide. So, and I'm going to be using this kind of plain piece here, but it's also double-sided printed for one of the inside portions. So that's all I'm going to cut right now. We'll cut some more as we go, but let's go ahead and get the base together. So let me get all these kind of scrappy pieces out of here so we can start with this. So this is going to be my tall piece, and I want this to be the outside cover. So I'm going to put that this way, and then the same with this one. Now I could do it this way. I think I'm going to do it this way. Okay, so here's my inside piece. Now basically what I want to do is I want to fold my wide piece over on both sides so that this piece is in the center, okay? So because I cut this one a little, I mean, normally to make that the center, I would just come in 2 1/2 inches on either side to make the fold. But because I cut this one at 10 1/4, I have an additional 1/8 of an inch on either side here, just for allowing for some height or, you know, some bulk inside of the folio itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scoreboard. I'm going to take the piece that I want for my wide piece, and I'm going to score it on the outside. And so, like I said, normally I would just come in 2 1/2 inches and score, you know, from either side 2 1/2 inches. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by going 2 1/2 inches, and then I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch further. So that would be 2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8 is my first score here. Okay. And then I could even probably score this at, whoops, I did not score that right. Oh my goodness, look at that. So I wasn't looking at it correctly. So I didn't go, I went 1/8 of an inch shorter instead of larger. So let me try this again. So I'm going to go 2 5/8 here. So let me just do that first, because now I have two little weird things, but that's okay. We'll be covering up some of this stuff. So that'll be fine. And I'm going to just grab my bone folder to kind of make sure that's all nice and flattened out. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of, I want to put this paper in here because, like I said, I don't want to score this too far in to make this paper in the middle buckle. So I want to be sure that I'm not, you know, making this buckle. And because we're going to be adding things on, you don't even really need to center this piece if you don't want to, but that's, you know, just how I'm going to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up with my center line, this edge of this middle paper here, and I'm going to pull it apart or pull it over just a teeny little bit so that I have definitely some extra space in there. And something is not holding this right. So that I don't have that part buckling, okay? So now I'm going to kind of do a light score here because I do want to flip this over and do this as my my valley fold on this side, or my valley score, so that when I'm folding it, I get a nicer fold. So now I just lined that line up that I could see, that score line, and scored that just a little bit. So let's make sure, and this does fold very nicely over on top. And you can see we have this lined up, which actually won't really even matter because once we finish, it's not going to look like that anyway. So, but that folds over nicely, which is exactly what I wanted. And the other thing I might do while I'm here is I might go ahead, excuse me, and from those folds, I might go out and do my 1/8 of an inch score. Now this one, I think it's actually, is it an 1/8 of an inch that I got there, or more of a 1/4 of an inch? Yeah, I think I got more of a 1/4 of an inch. But anyway, so wherever I had scored the first time, we're going to go towards the outside edges and mark another 1/8 of an inch. And this, I think this score is a little big. Let me do my smaller one. Okay. So now I have just a little bit of extra room for anything that might go on there. Maybe that did work out just all right there. Okay, so now I have this little gap here. Okay, so you can kind of see, actually maybe if I hold it this way, you can kind of see my 1/8 of an inch. You know, there's my 2 folds, my 2 scores and 2 folds. That gives me that little bit of depth in there for us to build in our folio. Okay. Now the next part, actually I should probably, I'm going to go ahead and fold this one too so that it's ready to go. This one is going to go inside here. And once again, I kind of want this centered. Now because it's 11 inches, I have 1 extra inch. So actually I can probably do my score 3 inches on either side. But because I don't want, once again, I don't want to buckle, I'm going to start with 3 inches for one of the sides. Let's see, this will be my bottom edge. I'm trying to think because I might have less than 3 inches up here, and that's kind of what I want. So let's do 3 inches from whatever's going to be your top fold down. That's what I'm going to start with. So I'm going to do 3 inches here. So that's going to be my top fold down. And I like that as my sort of top flap. I think that looks pretty cool there. And then I'm going to kind of do the same thing I did before, is just do a guesstimate measure here so that I don't have a buckle when I'm folding this side over as well either. So I'm lining this up with my middle line, trying to make sure, actually I should probably put this up there so that I know I'm getting a straight line. And make sure this is, and once again I'm doing kind of a light line that way, and then if I can see it over here, I can kind of see it. You could also just mark this with a pencil. That would probably make it much easier than what I'm trying to do. Let me see if I can do that, because I am having a hard time seeing where that line is, and I don't want to do too much of a score on that side. So let's see. There we go. Okay, so now I have a little score mark here that I can see, and I think it is actually almost on that line now that I can sort of feel it here. All right, and we'll make our score there. And then I'm just gonna kind of put it together to make sure we can fold everything over. And because I did my top flap first, you can see it kind of folds over the bottom flap, which is what I wanted. So I wanted this top to be a little bit longer. Of course, it looks like it could have gone either way because we kind of centered it. Okay, so our base is done, which is good. All right, so let's move on to building some stuff. Okay, I went and grabbed my other piece that I had cut, and this one is 10.5 by 5, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this to start building our flaps for the one, for our left side here. And I'm gonna start with our long piece, so this wide piece. So I'm just gonna set our tall piece aside for now while we work on this piece here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create sort of a long flap with this one by sewing this right onto here. So I'm going to give myself just about a 1/2 inch, and I'm going to sew this piece on here so that we have a nice long flap like that. So I'm not even going to tack glue it down. I'm probably just going to eyeball it when I get to my sewing machine, and I'm just going to sew that little piece on there. All right, I just did a little bit of messy stitching on here to get those stitched together. And now you see we have this giant fold on this side, which is what I wanted. Okay, so now we're going to do a little scoring. And what I want to do is I'm not going to actually measure this. I'm just going to look at it based on the folds. So I know that my first fold can't go past this bend, okay, because it's got to fit in the book. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look to see where that bend is, and then I'm going to come back maybe, I don't know, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, something like that, approximately that much, and make a little mark, because that's where I'm going to do my first fold there. So I'm going to grab my scoreboard once again, and I'm going to find where I made that mark. There it is. And I'm just going to try to line it up with one of my lines here on my scoreboard. And we'll make that first score line, and I'm just going to erase my little pencil mark there. Okay, so now, you can't tell yet, but it's going to be able to fold in there. Okay, and so then the next one that I want to make is I want to make this so that it obviously fits on this side. So once again, I'm just going to eyeball it that we're not going past this fold. And I think I'm going to bring this one back a little bit more, because I'd like to have a kind of a nice long tail end here. So like I said, I'm just kind of eyeballing what I want this to be. So this side I want is going to be a little pocket, and then this side is going to have some tucks on it. So I'm just kind of thinking, okay, how big do I want my pocket to be, and how big do I want my little flip here that's going to have some tucks on it. And maybe what I'll do is, let's see how big it is. So it's a little over, it's about 7 1/4 inches that I have here. So 1/2 of 7 would be 3 1/2. So actually that's not bad. That's kind of nice for the pocket. And then we have a nice big side for the tucks. And we're still not going over 5 inches on any of these folds, because obviously it has to fit within this 5-inch middle portion here. So I think I like that idea. So I think I'm going to mark this with my pencil, because I want that to just go right about there. And then let's see if I can, nope, can't see it. You can see it on this side. Let me see if I can do it this way. Okay, it looks like it's about right there. Okay, so now this goes over like this, and then this, probably should have scored it on the other side, goes over like this, and it's going outside. So I need to go back a little bit. So it's, well, actually, I mean, it does fit in there. It does fit in there. Actually, I think that's okay. I was thinking didn't want it to go past the end of this, but actually, I think I kind of like that. I think it might be kind of fun. Okay, so we'll leave it like that. Let's go with it. All right, so now we have all of our folds in this little accordion side. Okay, in the spirit of going with it, I've decided to change my mind. I am going to cut off a little piece of this so that it doesn't show. I don't know why, I just want to. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, so I'm just going to fold so I can see kind of where it marks here. And I made kind of a longer line so I can see. And then I'm just going to cut a little bit past that off. Not too much, maybe 1/8 of an inch past that, so that it doesn't stick out. I'm sorry, I had to do it. Okay, so now it doesn't stick out, and I feel better. All right, so now we're going to build this pocket. So to build this pocket, I wanted it to sort of be just kind of like a hidden pocket. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to grab a piece of relatively plain paper. So I'm going to try to decide, actually it might be fun having this little ledger piece on here, or maybe even something with these purple words, or the plain purple. I don't know. There's so many options, so many options. Ooh, maybe this one. I like this one. So it's going to be a little bit plain here, which is what I want. So I'm going to cut this piece, and I need to be sure once again that we're not going too far past the folds. So this offcut is just about the right size here. But what I want to do is cut this about 1/8 of an inch in on either side of this fold and the edge. So I'm just kind of lining it up 1/8 of an inch here, and then I'm just going to mark my 1/8 of an inch here. So I'm going to cut this little sliver off, but then I'm also going to, I'm going to cut this at about, I don't know if I want to do 1 inch. I'm going to go 1 1/4 because I can always cut it down if I want to cut it down. So I want my width here to be about 1 1/4 inch. So I'm going to put that there like that. So this is the piece we're going to use. And then I'm going to cut that little sliver off, like I said. Okay. So this is going to fit on here. And I think that works. And then what I'm going to do is grab my corner rounder, and I'm going to round the corners with kind of a small diameter round. I don't want a wide one for this little piece, I don't think. Okay. And then of course, I'm going to grab my distress ink out of here. Just get a little distress going. I may go back in and kind of do this with, before I really get sewing and stuff, I may go in and distress all of these pieces as well. Oops. Okay. So yes, this is what I want. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as sort of the, I don't know, this is going to be, there's going to be, we're going to make a little pocket in here with a slit. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this down right where I want it. Now, I don't want it all the way up to the top, because when I stick something in the pocket, I don't necessarily want it to go over the top, especially since this is going to be, you know, folded in here. But so I want to leave a little bit of room for something maybe to stick out of this pocket while not going over the top of that bend. So I'm just going to grab my glitter glue here. Hopefully it's not blocked up. And of course it is. Now I have a mess going. So I'm just going to try to spread this around a little bit. And I've got so much on here, I may just spread a little bit around with my finger. Oh, I already have that one messed up. Just to make sure I'm using up as much as I can here. Now I gotta figure something out to wipe my fingers off. Hopefully I have wipes here. Okay, so now we're gonna put this down kind of right where I wanted it, and I'm gonna try to be sure it's level since I didn't mark that. Okay, and then we're gonna let that dry for just a minute. While that's drying, I will mark where I want to have my little opening. So let me grab my pencil, which is missing. Okay. And what I'm going to do for this, I'm going to try to kind of put the opening in the center of this. And now I made it about 1 1/4 inch, so I have to go 1/2 inch plus 1/8 inch to get the center here. So I'm just going to make a little mark a little dot with my pencil on that side, and then try to do the same thing over here. And a half, let's see. I don't know if I'm definitely not close enough to the end. So let me go this way. And see if I can. Okay, so I want this a little bit more out to the side. Well, maybe not that quite that much. Put that right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little line, a light line across, and just make sure it looks like it's centered and not, you know, tilting down or up. Because that would definitely be something I would do. Okay. And this is getting there. It's almost dry. Boy, there was a lot of glue on there. You don't need that much glue. Just remember that. Okay, but I'm going to leave that line on there, and then I'm going to use my little tiny hole punch. You could certainly, if you had one that would work, I'm not sure a regular handheld punch, you know, would go this far in, but you could use one of those if you had something, or you could use your, if you have a large crocodile that, you know, goes in large spaces, you could use that as well. So I think this is a 1/8 of an inch circle here, so that's what I'm going to be using. And I want to be sure I'm only punching through one layer of my accordion and this little label that we just put on. So all I'm going to do is where my sides were, I'm going to add, or, you know, subtract some dots there. And then, so now I have my two sides, and then I'm going to grab my craft knife here and a straight edge. Maybe even I can just use this as my straight edge. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to, not all the way at the top of those circles, but just a little tiny bit in, I'm going to create, ooh, that's tearing. Luckily it's tearing to the inside, and now I'm, all right, this isn't working. It's not working, folks. I don't think I was quite dry enough. I have a little piece of paper that's trying to, I should probably wait. Let's wait, Sharon. You can do it. You can wait. All right, I'm gonna wait. Let's go on and do another step while I'm waiting for that to totally dry, because I really don't want to rip it too much here. I could always, you know, put something else over it, which I may end up having to do because it does look like it kind of tore a little bit here, but I'm going to not play with it for a little while. Let's let that dry. All right, so let's maybe start working on the other side so we can let this dry a little bit. Okay, while that's drying, I decided I'm going to pull out my tall side here, and we'll start working on this little centerpiece, because this is going to be the piece that, when you open everything up, this will be right in the middle. So I thought it would be fun to do a little bit of a stacked pocket maybe in here. So, and I'm thinking with all these little offcuts, I have lots to work with, you know, to do these pockets. So let's see, I love having these ladies in here. So I might use that for one. I was thinking about this one as being the back one, but I'm going to end up covering up all those pretty purple flowers, I think, if I do that, unless I make this one pretty low here. And then I could kind of move this up. Let's see how that might work. I might be able to do this. Let's see. I'm going to check my scraps and see if I have anything else that might work. I don't want to pull from something that's a full sheet, I don't think, when I have all these lovely scraps to use. Okay, so let's see if we can do this. So first thing I need to do, this one's going to be my bottom little pocket. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where to cut this off. And I'm doing it just a tiny bit, just a smidge in from the center, to be sure that this fits, you know, inside with everything folded. Once again, that's what I'm, you know, constantly thinking of here. I'm going to grab my cutter that I lost. Whoops. I put it over here. Okay, so let's cut this one down first. And then I'm going to decide how tall I want the pocket. So I want to leave just a little bit of that little, looks like tape on there. Okay, so this will be our bottom pocket. And then our top pocket, I think I can work with this so that we have some of this flower showing, which I like. So find my pencil. And this one I am going to try and cut at exactly the same spot as the other one so that they match. Just make sure they match first. Okay, and then I think what I'm going to do, yeah, I think that'll be good. I'm going to cut this one off because once again, we want to leave a little bit at the top for things to stick out of. So I think I'm just going to cut off the top of this flower here, that one flower, and leave the rest on. For our top pocket. So we'll just have to be careful when we glue that down. Okay, so I'm going to have a bottom pocket here and a top pocket here for more stuff. Got to have lots of stuff put in here. You know how that goes. All right, and I'm going to grab my 1-inch hole punch and I'm going to line these up at the top. And I'm going to try to find the center of whatever this is that I cut. Almost 5 inches, not quite, so that'll be 2.5 there. And making sure the top edges of my pockets are lined up. I'm going to cut them together. And I'm not going to do a real big notch because I don't want to lose, you know, some of the picture and things that are going on, but I'm going to do a little notch there so you can see them. And then I'm going to distress everything. So I think while I'm doing this, I'm just going to distress everything else and then we'll come right back. All right, I have everything distressed and I want to go ahead and glue down my pockets since I know that these are going there. But what I'm going to do, because I had to cut this one so short, just try and fold that a little so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to have to mark where these need to go so that I'm, you know, not putting this one down too far and having a gap here or, you know, putting it up too high. So I'm going to situate these where I want them on top of each other. And then I'm going to place them on the back paper here where I want it there. Make sure I'm not going over my fold. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully take off the bottom one. And I'm going to make a little pencil line here so I know where this goes down to mark this down. Now, the other thing that I want to mention is most of the time when you do a pocket, you know, you would glue 3 sides. And on this bottom piece, I am going to do that. But on my top piece, because I want the pocket to go all the way down to be a bigger pocket, I'm just going to glue on either side here. So I'll show you what I mean. Hopefully my glue is not going too crazy now. I think we have it back in line. Okay, so I've just put 2 little strips of glue on either side, and I'm going to line this up with that line that I made. And if there's any gap on either side, I'm going to try to make sure that's even. Okay, so that's the first one. And now this one, I am going to go down and around the whole thing on my 3 sides, like you would normally glue a pocket. Okay, and then this one, I'm just going to make sure I'm not over the fold again, and when I lay it down, before I push everything down, I'm going to make sure that, you know, seems aligned right, which it does here. Whoops. Make sure it's not cockeyed. Okay, so now I'm just gonna grab my little offcut here. So now you can see this pocket, you know, just goes down this far, but this pocket goes all the way down. So I have a nice big pocket in the back there, even though I used a, you know, fairly short piece of paper. Okay, so that's done. Okay, coming back to my little pocket here where I have my little tear in that I'm certainly bummed about. I'm just gonna kind of go through the tear with my knife in the hopes that I won't tear it any further, but I still want to get my cut entirely through this here. Okay, so I think we're pretty good there. We have that fixed. Now I'm going to make my other cut. So I made one cut towards the top of my 2 holes. My second cut I'm going to make towards the bottom of the 2 holes. So I'm just kind of lining that up. And this one I think I'm going to go a little bit slower. I do think it's dry now, but I just want to be careful. So I'm not going to push quite as hard. It could also be that maybe I need a new blade. That's always a possibility with these craft knives. I use this pretty much. And my tear kind of goes through there. So I am going to be careful as I do this. Make sure I'm through everything. Now I should be able to pull that little center piece out, which I did. I'm just kind of cleaning up some of the edges there. So now you can see I have this nice big opening for our pocket. Okay, so now we can create this pocket that's going to be sealed all the way around, and then you just would tuck your piece of ephemera or whatever we're going to be putting in there just like that. Okay, so good. I feel much better about that now. Where's the lid for my knife? I don't want that hanging around here. All right, let's work on some of these other pieces here. I try not to, you know, sew anything or glue anything down until I'm certain I have the, you know, back sides of things done so that I have everything in its place. So that's kind of why I'm just, you know, keeping going here with doing different things. So I know that this is going to be together, so I have to do something with this flap. Well, certainly I don't have to do something, but I thought it would be fun to do some tuck spots on this side and then on this side. And to do that, I think I'm going to use this die cut. So I have this little die cut piece here, and I thought it would be fun to try to capture this little advertisement from the kit. I thought that would be cute. So I'm going to try to die cut this. Let's see if I can find a relatively sticky piece of washi tape to hold this in place for the moment. I don't want it to be too sticky, but I just want to like hold it in place until I go grab my machine. All right, I have my Sizzix machine here, and because these are, oops, like thinlets, I need to, oh, everything's sticking to the back of this. Look at that, very staticky. Okay, so I have to have my block and my thin die adapter here, and then I have my plates. So I'm gonna put this one down, and I'm going to put that right there. Make sure I have it lined up where I want it. And let's go ahead and run this through. Let's see what we did here. Take my sticky, not sticky washi tape off. And I have that little piece of the advertisement, and I love it. Okay, let me move this out of the way. Whee! Okay, so this is going to be a tuck spot, and since I want one on the other side, I thought I would try to just fold this in half and see if it would, you know, go wrap around the way I want it to and be a little tuck spot. So I am just going to try and fold this in half, lining up each of the edges of my die cut there. Grab my bone folder, since this is cardstock. That was the word I was trying to think of. And I think I absolutely love it. So then I will have a tuck spot on either side. And I love that it has, you know, this little thing on here. So let me do a little distressing. And this one we could probably put on. You know, I said I don't put things on until I'm sure, but since this is going to be the only thing that's going on here, I think I can put this on. Now, what I want to do for this is I want to just glue the bottom. I want to keep the sides open so that I can slip something in there. So I'm just grabbing something. So it'll be a little tuck spot like this. And then same thing for this side. It'll be a little tuck spot here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tiny bit of glue on my fold and then also along the bottom so that those parts are what stays down. So let's go ahead and do that. I hope I stayed close to the seam or the fold there. Okay, and then I'm just going to put that on here and very carefully fold that down. I'm going to make sure no glue is oozing out so that I don't have it stuck down to everything. Maybe I'll unfold it for a minute and just press this down until the glue sets up on here. But I do love the way that looks. And then I'm just going to grab my, this is too big for this spot, but that's exactly what I wanted it to do. So it's not going to come out the bottom, but you can tuck things right into there. And then same thing on this side, you can tuck that right in. So fun. I love it. Okay. Now this flap is done. I might need to do a little decorating here, but we'll wait and to worry about that until later. Okay, so then the next piece we want to do is our main flap. So I think I want to do a pocket here. And once again, I'm just going to take a look at my offcuts and see what kind of things I have to maybe do that. And I think I kind of like this one. That one's kind of nice for a pocket there. And now this one, I do want to be relatively big. And the reason for that is because this is the side that we're going to put a magnet on. So we're not going to glue anything down yet because we're going to add that magnet, but I'm going to go ahead and create the pocket so that it's ready to go when we're ready to do that part. So I'm going to, once again, by just looking at things, I'm going to make my cut line here for this pocket. Okay. And I do think I am going to do a thumb notch on this one as well. But instead of using my 1-inch hole, I think I'm going to use my 2-inch one. But once again, I'm going to try to measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The center, 1, 2.5 is about right there. And then we'll make ourselves a little notch in here. Just like so. And now for this one, I do think I am going to do some sewing around this pocket. I didn't do any around the tuck spots that we did because they were pretty decorative by themselves. I don't think they needed anything else. But for this, I do think I might add some sewing. But I'm going to sew it all. I'm just going to sew around the whole thing while it's not attached to anything. So I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. All right, I went ahead and grabbed my magnets and I just was going to show them to you here. So I have 2 magnets. These are actually 10 millimeters round by 1 millimeter thick. So they're pretty thin, and these are called refrigerator magnets. I will link to them in the description if you're looking for these. I like that they're 10 millimeters because it gives you, a lot of space, and they're very magnetic, so they pop together really nicely. So these are the two magnets I'm going to use to hold our two flaps together. And right now I'm going to put one of them on. So I'm going to just kind of, actually, I'm going to put this aside somewhere where I won't lose it, because that's definitely going to happen. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my first magnet down. And I want to do it underneath this pocket so that you can't see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this about halfway. It doesn't have to be perfect. This pocket goes above halfway, which is good. So remember, our middle piece, or our height of this, is about 5 inches. So if I look at 2.5 inches, my magnet could go right here, and I think that works pretty well. So I'm going to just line this up so I know where I'm putting it here. I'm going to mark my 2.5 inch spot so I kind of know where I'm going to put my magnet. And then I'm going to need to put a pretty strong glue. I'm not going to put it totally towards the end. I kind of want to move it in just a little bit, which will, kind of, it's not going to take away from our pocket, but if we put something very wide in this pocket, you may bump against the magnet, just as a, just so you know, kind of thing. So I think I'm going to grab my 3-in-1 glue for this one. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to make sure I'm gluing down the right sides, that I'm not, whoops, I don't want them to repel each other. So I'm going to make sure that, I have them, I know what side I need to glue down. And maybe even what I'll do is grab my little Sharpie here and just make a little mark on one of the sides so I know this the side that I got to glue down when I take them apart. Okay, so now I have them apart. I know this is the side I need to glue down. I'm going to take my 3-in-1 glue here. And we're going to add that in. And this is another one of those things that we're really going to let dry, because if I try to put the other magnet on, I'll start pulling it off of the paper itself. So I'm going to, I need to grab a little sewing, actually, look at that, I have paper clips right here. I'm just going to put this paper clip on here to hold this paper down while that dries. So I'm going to set this aside to dry. I want that magnet to be good and dry before we do too much more on that. So I'm going to start working on this flap over here. And what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to grab some more cutoffs. And actually, I don't know if I have enough cutoffs or a big enough size cutoff to work here. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to grab another, just a full sheet of paper, because I haven't really used some of these, and we're going to start with that for our left side here.